In this episode, John and I are unpacking our real life experiences with interracial relationships. From navigating culture to raising kids in a way that honors both sides, we talk about what it takes to make it work, even if the end doesn't turn out the way you expected. Have fun and meet me in the comments.
You brought up something that was interesting with respect to understanding how it is that you have to grow as an individual. And one of the things that caught my attention this week was, and it's part of the conversation we had last week, and it's part of the community comments that we had with respect to our last episode, and talked about dating outside of your culture. Both of us obviously dated and in our case, married individuals that were culturally different. In your case, you married Chad, using a euphemism for his name. And I married Becky.
You married, I like to change your name to Abigail. I like that name.
Abigail. Okay. So Abby, I married Abby. And so for me, one of the comments that jumped out was because of where I matriculated school, which is the greatest university God ever created. And because of my love and passion for the culture, how is it that I ended up marrying someone not of the culture, not once, but twice? And that is a valid question that when it happened, sort of caught me off guard because I wasn't looking to get in a relationship, definitely not looking to get in a relationship with someone that wasn't of the culture. You don't not see color because that's disrespectful, because you have to see color to navigate the world that we live in. And full transparency, the fact that I was or am who I am with respect to having very strong beliefs with respect to support for the African American community, that was a struggle in the early stages of my marriage, and is something that caused us to separate and ultimately get divorced the first time, because Abigail would say that I hated white folk. And it wasn't a hate for white folk. It was me understanding that there were certain things that I felt strongly about with respect to the culture and with respect to how it is that certain things were presented. And if you are not Black, it can be harsh to hear some of those things phrased in the manner that I was probably phrasing them. And so from that standpoint, it provided me an opportunity to grow and say, okay, I can say what I need to say, but not be mean-spirited about it. And I can say what I need to say and still support my culture and not lose my identity. At the same time, allow me to love who it is that I love. And it's always fascinating to me when I look at couples who are from different cultures, and I know some of the conversations that have taken place, because I believe you have to be equally yoked in a couple of areas. You have to be equally yoked financially, spiritually, emotionally, and the family structure, which we just talked about with respect to the breeding aspect. There's so many different facets that I think make up a relationship that you have to navigate not only those nuances internally, but then after you've navigated them and had those conversations internally, then you need to have those conversations externally. And so it's always fascinating when you go into a space and you are part of, quote unquote, the tribe, where that person could be of another culture, and you see how you're received, or you see how people respond to the person that you are with. And as a Black man, sometimes I had blinders on. I didn't see certain things, but Abigail would see those things, and she would ask me if I noticed certain things. No, but I just found that aspect of the partnership and relationship different or interesting. What say you about your experience, ma'am?
Interesting that you brought up that last part, because that was a similar thing that happened with us, that Chad would say, oh, they're looking at us. And I was like, maybe they like looking at beautiful people. Like, I mean, I don't know. Why do you care? I was the first person of color that he ever dated, that he ever had a relationship with. And so I don't know if it was something that was more noticeable to him, but I don't tend to spend a lot of time focused on external things. I mean, that's probably why I'm going to become a Dateline victim, because I don't pay attention to my external world. But it was something that I think was important to him, and something that could have been a source of contention with us, because I'm like, who cares? Like, who cares? Are they paying our bill? Are they sleeping in our bed with us? Who cares? But it was something that he always noticed. And I think that because I was more internal and he kind of just looked at the world as a whole, that was a little bit of a source of contention with us. And especially when we had the boys, my youngest son was essentially blonde and extremely light. So for him, it was people would think that I was his caregiver, not the mom, but the caregiver. And I think that bothered Chad as well. But for me, I was like you. I didn't even see those people. Thank goodness I wasn't driving because I probably would have hit them. Like, I just don't pay attention to people outside of my area and my space because I just don't feel that their opinion is going to define anything that's going on in my life.
One of the things that I struggled with early on was how much to begin to be immersed in the culture and how much I was going to pull back with respect to being immersed in the culture. By that I mean that, was I've always made it a point since 1987 to make certain that I support Black businesses, that I support Black culture when it comes out, whether it's television, whether it's movie theaters, or whether it's the arts, whether I support Black literature when it's happening. And part of the conversation early on in the relationship was, I'm going to continue to do those things. And it'd be nice if you went with me to those things. If not, then that's fine. I'm going to go still. And so that conversation occurred in the beginning where, in a lot of ways, Abigail will say that she was Blacker than I am in some ways because she was much more immersed in some things than I was.
Actually say that she's blacker than me. You've said that on many occasions, and I take offense to that.
And so one of the things that was very interesting was to watch the exposure and experience to certain aspects of the culture, whether it was, again, attending, especially in Atlanta, attending Black restaurants, whether it was going to Black restaurants, whether it was attending events that we had from a cultural standpoint in terms of music, and watching that aspect of my wife be able to get it, understand it, and appreciate it. The other thing that did come up as a part of the cultural thing was, how do you navigate having conversations about race in your day-to-day life? Because some things you may see that they may not see, and you don't want to come off as the angry Black woman or the angry Black man who's always thinking that things are racial. How were you able to navigate that?
That was a little bit of a challenge. And to be super honest, I mean, it was a challenge because you sometimes feel like you're seeing dead people. And because they don't see that, and that's not their experience. And so it has to be this open communication. If you say that you see it, then give me the space and the grace to explain it. It can't always be shut down. You're seeing things, it's probably you. I mean, in my case, it probably was me because I was probably challenging someone. When you think about that, obviously everybody's relationship is going to be different. And I think that some of the things that you're bringing up, to be honest, those were contention points in our marriage. As you grow and as you become the person that you are, you're not the same person at 30, at 40, at 50. And so more things become important. Like for me, when COVID hit, I think I got outside of my bubble, and maybe it was because I was forced to do that. And I started to see more inequity, and it bothered me. I had talked about it before when I was younger that I was very militant. I'm the next Angela Davis. And then but it didn't become as important to me as I moved through my life. But then during COVID, it became very important to me. And there was just a lot of different events that really spoke to me. And you want a partner that you can share those things with. And you'll be able to talk about the different aspects of it. And we were just in different spaces at that particular point in our lives. And actually, right after COVID, we separated and got a divorce. Not because we hated each other or anything, but we really just grew apart. And the things that were important to me weren't necessarily important to him. And I think for me, I didn't have the husband that would say he was blacker than me. That would not have ever occurred. So, like I said, I was the first person of color that he ever dated. And as I became more interested and immersed in the Black culture and the inequities that were happening and how I wanted to support those things and how it just spoke to my soul, I didn't have a partner that I could share that with. And that was unfortunate. And so I think that, like I said, we grew apart, and I remember right after we grew apart and we talked about the rubric last week, I had this ridiculous list. Sometimes people make this list, and I had on the list, you have to be this black if you want to ride this ride. I wanted the blackest black with the whitest teeth, and that's what I wanted. And I just went from one extreme to the other because I was like, I just wanted someone that I could share these experiences as I grew into this person with. And unfortunately, like I said, my husband wasn't there. He grew in a different direction. And for me now, not that I'm seeking out one particular person or race, but I'm doing a lot of that work on my own because I know that sometimes you're not going to find a partner that can share every single aspect with you. So a lot of times I will read on my own, have conversations with other people on my own, and do that work myself.
I have a comment, and I want to ask you this question because I find it interesting and fascinating. It's been my experience that couples, especially couples that are in mixed marriages or mixed relationships, there is some type of compromise that is made with respect to comfort level and with respect to where it is the couples may live. When you were electing where you live, was it much more comfortable for you to make certain that he was comfortable versus you being comfortable, meaning in a community that was much more accommodating to white folk than black folk?
And I will say this, and I know that some people had made comments about me being in Orange County and that there's diversity. I grew up in San Clemente, California. There ain't a lot of diversity going on around there unless you are of Latin descent and white. Not a lot of people that looked like me. And so for me, I felt comfortable being around white people, being in white spaces. Chad, not so much. And so when we looked for places to live, places to bring the kids to, it was more about what made him comfortable. And like I said, he would see things that I didn't see. And so if we went into spaces that were predominantly Black, there was uncomfortableness for him. And so I did make compromises that, okay, we will do this. And like I said, I was perfectly fine with it. I grew up that way. So I was fine with it. But then as I got older and I started to grow into a different version of myself, that those spaces became important to me. And especially like with my youngest son, who is blackety black, and he'll start the next Black Panthers, that being in Black spaces for him was important. And just a quick little story, our youngest, like he would go get his hair done. Like he's obsessed with his hair. And it has to be a particular way. So he would go to a Black barber. And you know what goes on in barber shops. They're just doing everything and they're talking about everything. And so he sent me a message and said, Mom, can you take me to the barber shop? Dad doesn't know what's going on. And I said, so we've got a problem. We've got a problem because first off, I'm not sitting in a barber shop, and that is a little disrespectful to your dad. And so your dad will continue to take you there, and we'll manage around it, but I'm not going to be doing it. Eventually, I'll tell you, because I break all the time, I did start doing it and I hated it. I hated it so much that one of the barbers said, I can tell that you're uncomfortable. Would you like for me to just come to your house and do this? Yes, I would like that. Thank you so much. So that became important because my son, as he grew, and he started to be in the culture. And you would ask him, we talked about biracial kids last week, I believe, and he identifies as Black. And you ask him why, and he's like, because of the culture, the community, there's just more richness there. And so I remember when he was a preteen, he's in the bathroom, he's blasting rap music, and he's blasting the rap music that his nana would be like, what in the world? And his dad is screaming, turn it down. And I'm just kind of laughing like, you've got a Black son. Like he loves Black. So you're going to need to get on board with this. So a lot of times I would take the boys into a lot of Black culture, Black art, Black whatever, because that's something that was important to them. They're close to their dad's side of the family, and so they had a different experience. My kids, they want to be Black. And so I'm like, I'm not going to, whatever you want, whatever course you chart, I'm going to help you get there. And so we would spend a lot more time in Black environments. He's got a lot of friends, like he's got a very diverse group of friends. And the majority of them are kids of color. And just because he likes the music, he likes the culture, he likes the community, he likes the loud laughter, he likes every single thing about being Black. When he was, I know I'm kind of monologuing, but he was little. We were at a restaurant. It was me and the boys. And I remember him saying, he looked over at this table and there was this Black family, Black dad, Black mom, two Black kids. And he's probably 6 or 7. And so he says in a 6 or 7 year old whisper, which, is like a freight train, I wish I had a Black family. And I was like, Lord have mercy. And so I was like, do I need to sit outside in the sun, kid? Because no one is going to, I'm not passing for anything. I'm Black. And so I was like, what do you need? And when I think about this, and again, it harkens back to last episode, there's something about the Black family that appealed to him and that is important to him. And so because it's important to him and it appeals to him as his mother, I feel that I owe it to him to make sure he's exposed to the things that are going to help him be the man that he's growing into.
I'm happy to hear that for your son. I know having a mother like you can be challenging because you are a wonderful individual with some strong opinions on certain things. And I'll leave it at that. I'll be nice this week. Quick question. What was your biggest misconception about white folk before you started dating or married a white person?
I didn't have any misconceptions because white people were in my house all the time. And the only thing that I could say was the worrying about other people and what they were thinking. Like that was just, I still today, why? Why do you care? But other than that, I didn't have any misconceptions about anything. I think that some of the quirks that he and I both have were just unique to us, like hiding socks underneath the bed for me to go on a little hunt to go find them and wash. Why is this happening? I do not want to play a game. I just want to wash clothes. Why are you doing this? But other than that, no, I don't think I had any. There was nothing that was unique because he was white that was surprising to me.
You know what was surprising? You know what was surprising for me, and I'll own this, is that white folk did not, at least my wife, did not use a washcloth. It was soap. It wasn't, I grew up in a household that had a hand towel.
I don't know if that's necessarily limited to white. I think that might be more of a European thing.
Okay, typically Europeans are white.
Okay, well, there are Black people that live over there too, John.
I didn't say they weren't Black people that lived in Europe, but I'm saying typically when you say European, that is a euphemism for white. So the washcloth thing was probably something that, and we're talking about stereotypes here. The washcloth thing was something that sort of took me by surprise. And then we'll laugh every now and then about white folk washing their legs, because there was this meme that was going around a couple of years ago that was about when white folk take a shower, they just let the soap drip down and so they don't wash the legs.
So that was not the experience in this house. You will be washing every crevice of your body or you won't be getting in this bed.
I take your point on that.
Exactly.
Right. On that note, thank you, ma'am. What do you have planned for the rest of the week?
I am headed to the great state of Louisiana this week. The kiddos come back, but I have some work and some business there. I just seem to go to every hot place in America. Fall, where are you?
Getting you ready for where you'll be spending eternity.
Oh my God. Wow. That was, if I had feelings, John, they would be hurt. But thank God I have 2 boys and I gave those up a long time ago.
Good. Well, safe travels to the great state of Louisiana. I think they'll appreciate having you there. On that note, it's been a interesting conversation today. We talked about the culture. We touched on breeding, touched on dating outside of the culture. You've shared your experiences. I've shared some of mine. It's been fascinating to hear about how it is that as a society, in some ways we're moving forward, but in a lot of ways we're moving back. And it's heartbreaking to read and see about the eugenics thing with the ads that are coming up. Even if it's unintentional, you know that it's wrong. You've been told know that it's wrong, but you're still doubling and tripling down on it. On that aspect, ma'am, thank you for spending some time with me today. To our audience, thank you guys for spending some time and having a conversation with us. Continue to send those comments. Obviously, Miss Lynn is reading those comments and they're striking a nerve with her, so continue to do that. That's always good. As always, we know that you have many things that you could be doing with your time. We're glad that you decide to spend just a little bit of that with us. And as always, take some time this week to do something nice for yourself. And while you're at it, make some time to do something nice for someone else. Until next time, we'll talk to you.
Thanks for tuning in to another lively conversation, and I take your point. This podcast is a production of the SME LLC Media Group, all rights reserved. If you are enjoying the show, hit the subscribe button in the top right corner. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and check out past episodes. Until next time, take care and be well.